Welcome everyone to our first RIST Uncensored Q&A session, where our RIST developers and experts will be discussing some of the myths surrounding internet video contribution, and also will be answering a number of questions, not only that came up during our last RIST webinar delivered in May, but also questions that we have been receiving through various other channels. My name is Susanna Brady. I'm the co-chairman of the RIST Forum Group and also the vice president of America's Sales at Cobalt Digital. Together with Ariel Slama, our co-chair, will be moderating this session today. We're planning to run a 45-minute session where we'll be stopping for live questions throughout the entire time. So please feel free to use the Q&A box session to submit any questions or comments that you have for any of the panelists, and we'll monitor the box and bring all your questions to everyone. Also, Wes Simpson has notified us a few minutes ago. For those of you who didn't hear, this session is being recorded and will be shared with you all, and will be posted on our website and also on our RIST YouTube channel. So before we start, I'd like to introduce you to our wonderful, talented, and unique panelists. So we have Kieran Cunningham, who is a RIST Forum Director and also the founder and CEO at Open Broadcast Systems. So you can wave, Kieran.
Wave, yeah. Hello, everybody.
We have Sergio Amirada, who is the RIST Activity Group member and the Chief Science Officer for SIP Radios. Thanks, Sergio. We have Dr. Ciro Noronha, who is our RIST Forum President and the Executive Vice President of Engineering for Cobalt Digital. We have Wes Simpson, who is one of the RIST Activity Group co-chairman and the president and founder of the LearnIPVideo.com. And we have Odette Guntz, who is also a RIST Forum member and a video innovation leader at Zixi. And we have Adi Rosenberg, who is a RIST Forum director and co-founder and CTO at VideoFlow. And Rick Ackermans, our RIST Activity Group chairman and the director of RF and transmission engineering at CBS. So this is our group of panelists who are based all over the world and taking the time to be here and help educate everyone on a little bit more about RIST. And because there's so many new people attending this event, we decided to do a quick refresh on two basic things: what RIST is and why we need it. Okay, so RIST is an open protocol. RIST stands for Reliable Internet Stream Transport, and it's an open specification protocol for low latency, reliable, secure contribution over the internet. And RIST is being developed by a panel of industry experts in the context of the Video Services Forum, the VSF. And why RIST? Okay, so the two main things we want you to always know about RIST is that the primary objective of the group is really to provide interoperability between products from all different vendors while using best-in-class technologies, so there are no compromises to your workflow. And also we want you to think of having a choice, freedom of choice. So RIST gives you a choice of picking the best product for your needs without really being locked into a single vendor proprietary solution. So that's like the basics that we go by every day. And we have another slide that we find interesting just to educate people a little bit more. We like to show the slide to clarify the roles. So in 2017, the Video Services Forum created the RIST Activity Group we call the RIST AG Group, and at the request of ESPN and some other broadcasters. So we could come up with a common and interoperable specification, to solve the problem. And these are the people basically on the AG group on the left side who are writing all the specifications available today. And in 2019, a couple of years later, we created the RIST Forum Group. And the RIST Forum Group is really the marketing and membership side of the initiative. So this is the group responsible for recruiting, educating, and promoting the group's progress, throughout the year. So we are very excited to be here. All of us volunteer time to be here, and it's been a lot of fun and very interesting. So you're welcome to join us anytime. Now I will leave you with Ariel, who will be addressing the first initial questions to the panelists. Enjoy the session, and again, remember to send any live questions you have on the Q&A box. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susanna, for the introduction. So I think the first question I have would be directed to Wes, and it is about how does RIST fit with the ATSC 3.0?
So RIST is really a great solution for ATSC 3.0 studio to transmitter links because it fully supports RTP streams. RIST is normally configured to provide a reliable RTP or UDP stream over a constant delay transmission link, so it meshes perfectly with ATSC 3.0 STLTP and other technologies where you want to know exactly how long it's going to take your packets to get from a source to a destination.
Thank you, Wes. So I think following that up, the other question, maybe Adi, you can enlighten us a little bit, is how does RIST run as an application on third-party hardware, and how do we need to buy RIST encoders or decoders?
Okay, RIST is a simple protocol to implement. Many have done that before. It is based on industry standards and RFCs. It is also available as a library, open source library, as a LibRIST, offered by SIP Radius that are in the call. And it's been implemented by various vendors, as I said, it's also being used by multiple encoder and decoder vendors. Some of them are participating in this group, in this session. So one can run it as an application, one can run it inside on the cloud, on every platform available.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Adi. So RIST is very versatile. So Wes, do you know what is the IPR status on the RIST library?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because there's a lot of good information, and I have a prepared statement I'm going to read. And I want to make sure that everybody understands that intellectual property rights are not my specialty. However, this is the information that I've been able to gather. First of all, the RIST specifications can be downloaded by free for anyone from the vsf.tv website. These specifications are copyrighted by the Video Services Forum and distributed under the Creative Commons Attribution No Derivatives 4.0 International License. To view a copy of this license, visit the link that is included in the document. So if you download the RIST spec, you'll have a link there. Under the terms of this license, you may share, copy, and redistribute the material in any medium or format for any purpose, even commercially, under the following terms. Attribution. You must give appropriate credit, provide a link to the license, and indicate if changes were made. You may do so in any reasonable manner, but not in any way that suggests the licensor endorses you or your use. No derivatives. If you remix, transform, or build upon the material, you may not distribute the modified material. Now, each of the RIST specifications contains a detailed intellectual property rights statement. Anyone seeking to implement RIST technology should thoroughly read and fully understand this statement before proceeding with the development activities. Another point, the team that developed the RIST specification within the VSF was chartered as a RAND-Z activity group in accordance with the VSS IPR policy, which can also be downloaded from the VSF's website at vsf.tv. RAND-Z means reasonable and non-discriminatory with zero cost. If you want more information on this, please see the definitions section of the VSF's IPR policy for the precise legal definitions. The Video Services Forum, publishers of the RIST specifications, and the RIST Forum, the conveners of this Q&A session, take no positions whatsoever concerning the evidence, validity, or scope of any intellectual property rights that may have been asserted or may be asserted in the future relative to any work of either group. Now, I know that's a lot, so I'm going to take this material, transform it into a blog post, and get it out for people to see shortly after this Q&A session. So thanks for giving me a chance to share that.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much, Wes. Actually, I was about to say to the audience that we'll publish that in a reading format, so for everyone to deep dive in it. Maybe Susanna,
I have
you have some more question, I think.
I do have a couple of questions here regarding PTZ cameras. So do any PTZ cameras available today contain RIST on board already? And I guess maybe Rick, you can take that question.
Yes, at the moment, there are currently none on the market. However, we are working with several manufacturers, and hopefully they will be there soon. It is something that a lot of people have asked for, and with a lot of the work at home that's going on right now due to COVID, it's something that's in a great deal of demand.
And Rick, what is the standard delay, for controlling the PTZ cameras, for example?
That's dependent on how far away you are. If you're within like a metro area, like within a given city, it's not uncommon for your round trip time to be only about 10 milliseconds, maybe 20 milliseconds.
Mm-hmm.
So the latency is minimal. If you're going cross country, like New York to LA, or internationally, your round trip time can easily be 100, 150, 200 milliseconds. So it depends on how far away you are, your source point to your receive point, and transit time of the internet.
Okay, thank you. We get a question here that we got a few times, and it says, what is the traction of the RIST forum group? And I can take that. So like I said in the introduction, we started the RIST forum group a little over a year ago. We have at least 3 to 5 requests every single week of inquiries. We have about 85 members today. So in a year, we gathered 85 members to the forum group, and those include manufacturers of solutions supporting RIST, and end users that are adopting RIST, and also a number of consultants and press industry people that are interested in learning and being educated. So it's been a very interesting last year and a half for us, with tremendous interest pretty much on a weekly basis. So Ariel, I don't know if you have some more questions.
Yeah, I do actually, and I think it's a good question for Sergio here about if there is an open source implementation for RIST.
Correct. We have a library called LibRIST, and it's more than just a library. We have an entire ecosystem where the library is provided along with sample command line applications that could be used already for production transmissions. There's wrappers so that the library can be used in other languages. The library was written in C and it compiles in all operating systems, but there are wrappers for you to use the library in Python, C++, C#, etc. So with this entire ecosystem, you can create your own application or integrate the library in your application very quickly.
That's great. I think what I have there was a question in the Q&A, which is about if RIST is supported in the VLC for all operating system, does it take a plugin, or what version of VLC is RIST supported? And yeah, so
correct.
What's the status there?
All right, VLC 4.0, the next major release, will have RIST support. It already has the simple profile working in all the different platforms. So you can install the nightly build on any OS and it will work. We're working towards integrating the LibRIST library to the 4.0 so that it can also support the main profile and all the other features that are on it. That integration is coming along nicely. We already have the major OSs, Windows, Mac, and Linux, and the mobiles will come shortly after that. So we're hoping that before the major release comes out, we will also have main profile on it. If not, it will be a minor release after that. If somebody wants to use the VLC 3.0 branch, the current stable, they can contact me, and I will provide plugins that you can just drop into the folders, and it will enable the 3.0 version with RIST main profile using the Libris library.
Okay. I'm just going to come back to Rick a little bit from a question that was in the chat about PTZ camera, and if there are any particular PTZ camera manufacturers that you can mention that are working on RIST implementations.
Like I said, there are several that I've talked to for some of the stuff I'm working on. I can't mention their names right now, but we are trying to get them on board. There are decisions to be made. It's less technical than it is business. But we're hoping that we will have RIST compatible PTZ soon, because there's definitely a lot of need for it.
Okay, and then there's a question here, a Q&A, going back to VLC. When will VLC 4.0 be released for Windows or Linux?
Sergio, maybe?
Well, the 4.0 is already behind schedule. It was supposed to be released, I don't know, 6 months ago, but some major refactoring is going on, and there is no release date yet as far as I know. I expect it to be released within the next 1 to 2 months, best case scenario.
Thank you. And there are a couple of questions regarding RIST and Zixi and Haivision. So for those couple of questions, we'll get to these questions in a minute. Okay. As soon as we get to that topic, we'll ask your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Susanna. Just one last question, Sergio. Is the Libris license Apache 2.0?
No, the license is very liberal. It's BSD2, which is a very liberal license. You can basically include the library in your application. You can modify it, and you don't have to submit any changes if you don't want to.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to read a question that came in now. Will users of RIST need to pay any license fees to any participants in RIST? For example, video flows, Zixi, etc. If so, what do you think the license fees would be? Ciro, Adi, you want to answer that, please?
Yes, very easy. Just like Wes said, this is run Z. There is no license fee attached to RIST. So the value is 0, no fees at all. The open source code is open source, so it's easy and free to use.
Okay, wonderful.
Right, and again, so I would just really want to emphasize that anybody who is interested either in writing their own specification, or I'm sorry, writing their own software based on the open specification, or in using the Libris library, please take a look at the documents on the VSF website. They have very specific terms as to exactly what is there. And again, we don't take any position on the IPR, but the group was constituted as RANZ, as Adi said. So any IPR that we identified during the development process of the specification was agreed to be released at 0 cost to anybody who requests it.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a question maybe for you, Wes, since you're on the screen there. When you're building product on RIST, do you have to contribute back with what you build?
No. No code contributions are definitely not required. The Libris code can be downloaded, modified, used in commercial products. All you have to do really is follow the 2-clause BSD license, which means that you have to put in some copyright notices, and you also, if you're distributing binary code, there's a disclaimer about fitness for purpose. There's no warranty on the code, but you're free to take it, use it, and incorporate it into any product that you want to release.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. I have a question here for Sergio. Sergio is popular today. Apart from VLC and Wireshark, Will there be other applications that are related to RIST in the future?
Right. There's a library called UPipe that has RIST simple profile on it. GStreamer has a simple profile on it, and they're implementing main as well. And the library is also being integrated into FFmpeg. We've started the process. We expect to finish that within the next couple of weeks.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Kieran, I'm going to go to you because you're sitting there in your SpaceX cabin very quietly. So can you distribute an ASI 20 megabit stream over RIST?
Yes, so there's plenty of devices out there that can convert ASI to IP, and RIST carries IP packets. So various vendors provide gateway devices that go to IP that have RIST built in, or you can send the IP stream to a RIST gateway device. And this can definitely carry a 20 megabit stream and much higher bit rates than that. And there's no upper limit on bit rates for any RIST signal. But obviously you have connection limits. You obviously want to add some headroom and delay to make sure that you can transport that effectively over the network.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. Ariel, do you have some questions there?
Yeah, like our president has been quiet for a while, so it's time to ask him a question, I think.
Yeah.
In a multicast network, Zero, do receiver potentially receive content at different times?
Yes, it's definitely possible. In fact, if it's a mesh network, that is what's going to happen. We understand that there's some applications such as multi-cameras on a stage or bedding, where one would like those receivers to basically display at the same time. This is something that RIST is looking at right at the moment. So I'm going to flip to this slide over here. Sergio has been talking about simple profile, main profile. Those are the profiles in RIST. And this is something that we are looking at in enhanced profile. So the answer is right now, yeah, there's no mechanism to make them the same, but we are working on that as a feature for the enhanced profile. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zero. My next question is for Oded, who's been quiet since the beginning. Do you know of any cloud services using RIST for content distribution?
Yes, sure. AWS Media Connect using one of the Zix's product that implements RIST. And actually, whenever you want to upload or download media to AWS Cloud, you can do it with RIST simple profile. It's part of AWS ecosystem and priced with AWS regular prices.
Okay, great. There was a question in the Q&A about our roadmap, and if we could briefly describe the roadmap for the next couple of years. So maybe Rick, Adi, you can have or Zero.
Who wants to take that?
I'll take it.
Okay.
So as you can see here in the screen, we've had two profiles published from RIST. We started with simple profile, which is essentially about getting the data over the internet with protection, making sure the data gets in there. And that includes the ARQ, that includes link aggregation and bonding. It's a big deal where you can use multi-link, and it includes also redundant transmission paths. So once you get the content right there, now you want it to be secure. So that's main profile. Main profile adds tunneling, encryption, authentication, the nice things, the things that if you want to have a professional solution, this is what you need to have. So these two are available. Simple profile came out in 2018, and main profile came out just this year. Now we are working on something called the enhanced profile, which has features such as you can see, centralized call home, channel management, bandwidth optimization, some enhancements to the multi-stream tunneling. does screen synchronization. And the AG has just started work on that. We don't really have a schedule for it, but work is really picking up. And we could, this is basically the roadmap, and maybe the AG chair can comment a little bit more if he wants.
Yes, the timeline is, if at all possible, for the advanced profile is to have it first for show at VidTrans in February, whether it be physical or virtual VidTrans, and then to have the standard the technical recommendation published by NAB 2021, whether it be physical or virtual NAB. That's our goal and our timeline. Of course, with any work like this, timelines, even though we've been very good on meeting our timelines so far with RIST, historically timelines for anything like this do unfortunately sometimes slip, but so far with RIST we've been really good at hitting them. The other thing I'd like to add in terms of what we're looking at in the enhanced profile is that I'm looking to add a hybrid satellite terrestrial for delivery. As many of you may know, the FCC has recently reallocated a chunk of the 4 gigahertz C-band satellite spectrum that most broadcasters and cable distributors use for 5G phone service. This reallocation is going to do some nasty things for the use of C-band delivery. And many broadcasters and cable program providers are looking at some alternatives. Some of that might be migrating some services occasionally to either KU or KA, which are subject to rain fade. And RIST could be very helpful there by providing a hybrid solution to ruggedize KU and KA against rain fade issues. C-band may also need to be ruggedized due to interference caused by 5G cellular. So that's some.
Rick, we lost you.
We lost you, Rick.
Yeah. You have to unmute.
Let's just go to the next question.
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
So can you hear me?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. I guess I had a pop-up that showed up, and I guess anyway. So I'm going to assume that I will quickly retake. So C-band will be messed up. Therefore, we may have to go to KU and KA, and we're looking at using RIST as a rain fade protection against the problems we could have with that. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, good. So I saw that some of the questions in the Q&A were answered directly in the live chat, so that's cool. So maybe Susanna, the next question is for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's go for this. I think you can. Is this RIST TV certified product going to be updated daily, so to speak, on support for RIST? How do we find out low, main, advanced profile support?
Okay, so, well, on the website, we have a page that shows our website is RIST.tv. So if you go to the website, there is a page with products. And if you go to products, you get to see all the certified RIST products on that page. We haven't started specifying which ones support simple or main profile or advanced profile yet, because the main profile was just launched recently. But I like the idea of us specifying on the product page which products support each part of the protocol. So we're going to do that. So yes, we update that not on a daily basis, but I would say on a monthly basis as new members come up with new products supporting RIST. We'll get them posted on the website. I must say that people who keep up with, take care of our website are on top of it on a daily basis. So we can live anytime, just post anything, and we'll be updating and refreshing the product page very soon. So thank you. I think it's a good time to get into some questions regarding other partners, other different types of approaches to low latency. One question is, why don't RIST and SRT join forces? especially if High Vision is already a member of RIST. And maybe Wes, you can take this one.
Sure. So the thing that's important to understand is that RIST and SRT use two very different underlying technologies. RIST uses media-friendly RTP packets, and SRT uses UDT, which is an upgraded version of a file transport protocol. So with RTP, you have all sorts of good things like timestamps and synchronization sources and all sorts of extra tools that make it really friendly for real-time media transport. So, RIST is, we're very interested in any opportunities that there are to join forces. One of the things that I did want to mention is that there are a lot of people in the industry right now that are building products that act as gateways. And to me, that's a really positive development. So you can convert from one protocol to another. My belief is that the more open we make things, open specifications, open source, anybody who wants to do RIST today can simply download the spec, read it, and implement it. There really are no restrictions other than the IPR statement that we've already discussed. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's going to create a tremendous opportunity in the market for customers to feel comfortable with the technology, and for the whole market to expand tremendously as more and more people recognize the value of open specs and open source code.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a few questions, live questions regarding this. So another one, Cyril could answer this one, is RIST better than SRT in regards to latency?
Well, in regards to latency, they're about the same. What you've got to understand here is that there is a latency reliability trade-off, and RIST allows you to tweak that knob. What RIST is, I know it's not the answer, but not the question, but what RIST does better is packet recovery, which we've demonstrated RIST can go to 50% packet loss, and the security is better in the part of the authentication. So, I mean, from a technical standpoint, those are the comparisons.
Okay, I'm just gonna read a couple of the live questions just quickly so you guys can go over that. One is, I see Zixi and High Vision are RIST leading members, but I see they push their own solutions instead. So I think we already addressed, but how RIST compares with Zixi, specifically in SRT. Maybe Oded can say something about that.
Yes, sure. I will relate to Zixi compared to RIST. So actually, Zixi standard was designed a few years ago, and since it was designed, we're trying to somehow standardize it. We found MMT as a good solution, but MMT is not spread enough. So RIST is actually a good way for us to standardize Zixi's protocol. So actually, RIST and Zixi has similar characteristics. We have some, I think that the Zixi protocol still have some advantages, like in the efficiency of FAC, compression, but the RIST advanced profile has more features on work that will take advantage and cover this distance. So to conclude, actually RIST is a standardized way to implement Zixi. Still, there are implementations point that can vary from vendor to vendor and make the difference between different vendors.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'll get off the topic of SRT and RIST in Zixi a minute, because we have one question here that's, will the RIST product or products be a threat to other products like 3G and 4G mobile streaming solutions?
I don't think so.
Wes can answer that.
Yeah, to be honest, I view this as being an opening up of the marketplace. We're making it so that companies can build the products that they're best at. People who like to build backpacks can build backpacks. People who like to build cloud implementations can build cloud implementations. People who like to integrate the technology into their live workflow workstations can do that. And because it's an open spec and it's a open source code, you can integrate it into all those different applications. So in my mind, that's going to make it easier for customers to buy this, and I think overall should greatly expand the market. So I don't see it as a threat at all. I see that as a tremendous opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Ariel, would you like to take the next couple questions? I know there's some repetitive questions.
There are some follow-up questions in the Q&A. First, I think I will address a question to Rick about if there is a RIST app for iPhone and or Android. That would be the first question, and then there is another follow-up question.
Okay, at the moment there is not, but it is something that we definitely need to look into. And if any of the RIST members want to write one, that would be a really good thing.
Okay.
So that's the answer to that.
Okay, so earlier you were talking about satellite solutions, and the follow-up question that was asked was about if would the satellite solution use DVB or IP transport over satellite?
We are still developing it. At the moment, my personal suggestion is that it needs to be backward compatible with legacy satellite. So therefore, it needs to use the MPEG transport style. That's not to say that it cannot incorporate other modulation technologies that are more modern, but it certainly needs to be able to handle legacy satellite transport signals and back them up with RIST.
Okay, I think the next question that we have in the Q&A, and I think it's maybe for Sergio, there was a question about RIST supporting intact transport NDI, and this was a question posted earlier on. If you can enlighten us a little bit there, and then there would be a request about talking about more practical implementation tasks required to support redundant path. So does this require a two connection and own code to flow between RTP packet, or is it already part of LibRIST implementations?
All right, let me start with the NDI question. The question was whether there are plans to make an NDI lossless gateway or compatibility port of using RIST. And although NDI support, it uses UDP for the discovery part, the multicast DNS, but the protocol itself, it's TCP based. Once you discover the name of the cameras, whatever, it uses UDP. Uses TCP. So there are methods of moving TCP across a UDP channel, and we're exploring one of such methods as a proof of concept. So stand by, there might be something in the future coming of a compatibility layer for transmission of NDI over RIST. We're exploring that. On the other question, whether the practical implementation of a multipath or redundant path, this is already supported and fully functional in the LibRIST library. We even have examples on our online documentation on how to use it and set up a couple of either redundant path with full one-to-one on each, or load balance with just leveraging multiple links.
Okay, that's great. And I think there was a question that Adi wanted to answer. I'm just trying to reach it. What's the advantage of ARC over TCP?
What the advantages of RTCP?
The advantage of ARC over ARQ over TCP, sorry.
Okay, the advantage of ARQ is that with TCP, if you don't answer at a timely manner, the system will stall. The TCP protocol will stop and wait for the packet to arrive, and if it won't, the session will time out and basically going down. If we will do that with the UDP and ARQ, the packet may not come up, but RIST will continue to push packets out so that the session is faster. Also, the ARQ with RIST is based on UDP, which is much more user-friendly for streaming over TCP.
I like Suro's famous quote. He said, TCP never saw a packet it didn't like. So, with RIST, if you lose a packet, which is possible. I mean, there's a point in time at which if you try to resend it even multiple times, you're going to eventually hit a timeout. If that packet won't go through, with RIST, you're going to keep your stream going. With TCP, as Adi said, you're going to stop and wait for that stream, which means that you could, cut yourself off in the middle of a live broadcast.
There is a follow-up question to this TCP question, which has been already answered, as I see. Someone is faster than me in monitoring the Q&A, but RTMP uses TCP and is known for low latency. How can that be? And I think Adi, did you, or Kieran, in your SpaceX module, can you correct, or can you comment?
So speaking of latency, this isn't correct. RTMP doesn't have the lowest latency. RTMP kind of has the lowest latency relative to other legacy protocols. So it is, if you sort all the legacy protocols, RTMP has the lowest of those, but using a modern UDP-based retransmission protocol like RIST, you can get the latency to be defined. You can define it to be what you want it to be, and that's a key difference compared to RTMP, where it's the transmission system that decides what the actual latency is. You can bound the latency and say, I want the latency to be, X milliseconds, and you know that it will never get longer than that. But with TCP-based systems, it's really finger in the air, and this isn't really good enough. This is good enough for web streaming, etc., but for a professional broadcast environment where there's interactive conversations, this isn't good enough. And something like RIST is important for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Susanna, do we have more questions?
We do. Someone, one of the attendees made a note that there's a conversion gateway that already exists between RIST, NDI, and RIST. So it's called the Sienna NDI processing engine from Sienna TV. Sienna TV actually just joined the RIST forum about a week ago, and there was a press release that went out today with the last 15 members to join, and Sienna has been included on the press release. So, so that's excellent, and thank you, Sienna, and thanks for the attendee for asking. And
so they joined a week ago, and they already have a product. Boy, that's great, man.
I know. That's how we like it.
There we go.
Then there's a couple questions here. There are different questions. Maybe for Adi. Did RIST have any congestion detection control?
Oh, that's a very good question. We actually addressed that issue with a simple profile. We told the implementers that they should have that implementation because that was one of the pitfalls of early ARQ implementation, that they would retransmit to the end of life and they will congest the link. We advised the user to implement that, but we allowed for the implementers to do that by how to see fit. So many simple implementations do have such capability today.
Excellent, thank you. Does RIST support TLS 1.3, Wes?
So TLS 1.3 is a new transport protocol basically for websites, and it's HTTP based and TCP based. So we actually support DTLS 1.2, and DTLS is designed for unicast applications. So we are, you know, and DTLS 1.3 is an evolutionary step for DTLS 1.2. So that's something that we're going to take a look at as we you know, go through our roadmap here. It may be possible to support it in the future, but at the time that we were finalizing the spec on the main profile, DTLS, the equivalent of 1.3, wasn't really solidified yet. So we decided to go with something that is known and works and is reliable today.
Okay, thank you. With that, I don't know if you want to add something to it. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to add that RIST to NDI and back to RIST can be done also with Zix's broadcaster from version 14 because it supports both standards.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. This question can go to Wes again.
Okay.
Let's see. Does RIST support PTP for synchronization?
Well, that's an interesting question. So first of all, it's important to understand that RIST doesn't modify the timestamps on RTP packets. So if you have your stream coming in and already has an RTP timestamp on it, when it transits through a RIST system, we don't change that timestamp. We might use it for controlling retransmission and things like that, but we're not going to alter that value on your packet. So if you've got two different media streams with PTP timestamps on them, when they get to the destination, you'll be able to use those timestamps to resynchronize. Now, what some people are thinking about is, geez, can I actually deliver a PTP service over the public internet? And really, the way that PTP works is that you have to have a consistent packet propagation time from your source to your destination, like you would see on a local network. So device A to device B, the packets will always take the same amount of time in transit. That condition doesn't really exist on the public internet. So sending PTP packets over an internet application is not something that I would advise. However, you can have PTP receivers at your source and at your destination. They can both lock to you know, the global clock standards, and you can do anything you want with PTP then.
Okay, thank you. I noticed that we're 50 minutes into it. So I was gonna suggest that if all the panelists could look at some of the missing questions, we're gonna go through each one of you maybe and see if each one of you would like to address a question that's important to you, that you feel like we should address today before we go one more time to the live questions. So Cyril, would you like to start? Maybe you can answer something like, there was a question that says, is that what we want to use as a baseline, say, to integrate our technology to have something much better, but proprietary? Can we do that? IPR on software implementation, not patents.
Okay. I kind of missed that one.
This question is coming down the list where I was going is,
So,
there's two questions for you. There's one that says, can you review again the packet loss figures for RIST versus SRT? And then there's another question for you that is that if we want to use the baseline.
I was going to actually answer the question on, yeah, I see that question. That question on IPR is a bit complicated. Some parts of if you, the question is, that question is, if you can you start with RIST and then make into to something that's much better but proprietary? There is no generic answer to that. I'm sorry.
Well, it's going to be
So-
hard to do, first of all, right, Cyril?
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, we spent a lot of time and effort doing that, but there, you know, there are no, RIST is a open specification. Anybody can use it in their commercial products. If somebody changes the way that the sender and the receiver interact, you probably won't be compatible with some of the existing products that are out there. But there's nothing from a legal standpoint where you can't, you know, build upon that as long as you don't call it RIST. It's fine.
That's right. I mean, you can go and roll your own thing based on ARQ. ARQ is a technique that's been around since the 60s.
Right.
But then it isn't RIST and is not going to interoperate.
Let me just add, I
go
think we
ahead,
got a little off from the original question, but just because of the way it was brought up, keep in mind, the RANZ licensing is for RIST. You cannot take the stuff that is licensed for RIST, say, oh, I like this intellectual property, I'm going to pull it out and use it in a different product. So the RANZ is for use in RIST. You don't get to break the pieces apart and get free licenses.
Well said.
Okay.
I think as we are going more into time and we almost passed the hours and the Q&A box was quite active. If we just want to take the last question maybe, and before Cyril, maybe you can wrap up the webinar. So do you know orchestration and telemetry package within Dixie that use RIST? Maybe, I don't know, Rick or Odette, you have an idea about this?
Actually, I didn't get the question there. What was that?
Can I take that?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Eddie.
Each vendor, some vendors that are part of this session do have their own management system. Some of them do use RIST, so they're monitoring RIST. For example, Zigzi Master will monitor RIST devices with its solution. Nimbra Vision by NetInsight has that capability as well. Also, third-party solution like Data Miner do have drivers to RIST-capable devices, so they can monitor that. Other third-party devices do develop today drivers to monitor specific vendor solutions that are using RIST. So this is something that is available, and you need to go to the vendor of choice. Or if it's Libris, then this is something that Libris guys will have to answer. But it's not that difficult to implement.
Okay. So maybe we have time for one or two more questions, right, Susanna?
Sure.
Yeah. So let's look into yeah. So let's look into the other question. Maybe for you, Oded, with RIST, we're using a bunch of RTP or RFCs. Was SRTP considered for encryption?
Yes. Okay, we considered it, but finally the RIST group decided to use DTLS because it has some advantages over SRTP. One of them is the variety of ciphers. DTLS has a large variety of ciphers relative to SRTP. DTLS is developing and live tool. It always gets better and better, while SRTP is a standard and it remains as is. So that's why we choose SRTP, choose DTLS to put in the RIST main profile. I see that Adi want to add something.
Yes, thank you. That I just want to remind you that RIST support DTLS and PSK, and also the decision was that we want to have multi-types of traffic going through, not only RTP. So the main profile tunnel can support any type of data passing through, which was another advantage of using the DTLS encryption and not to constrain ourselves to SRTP, which is constrained in its nature.
Thank you so much. Well, we are having a wonderful list of questions, live questions, as well as all the questions that we received in the last couple of weeks leading to this event. So we can thank you enough for taking your time to join us today. Obviously, this is a perfect opportunity to get your RIST questions out. There's not often you're going to see all these guys here available for answering questions, but this is it's just been overwhelming, the interest and the questions and how many people contact us on a weekly basis. I think we're thinking of doing a Q&A session too to address the second portion of the questions we already have, not even talking about questions that are going to continue to come in. So maybe we do that 4 to 6 weeks from now. We like to do an event every 6 weeks or so, so we don't cause a lot of traffic in your day-to-day activities. But if you have any questions, please submit to myself or Ariel. Also, this Q&A event is being recorded, and we're also going to publish the questions. We're going to let's publish both on our website, and also we're going to send this session to all the attendees of this event. So we're going to make sure to do that in the next day or so. And thank you very, very much for joining us. Thank you so much, Ariel, for helping too. And thank you, wonderful, brilliant panelists.
Yeah,
It's always a pleasure working with you, and always a bunch of learning. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everyone. And do engage with us on social media channels, whether Twitter or LinkedIn. If you have any question, a comment, we are all there and we're monitoring that. So if you have any comments or add-ons, please.
And please join us as members. You know, there's 3 levels of membership. One level is free. There's absolutely no cost. The affiliate membership level, a lot of people come to us and they think that it costs to join the RIST forum. It does not. Most of the members are non-paying members, but they contribute immensely. So we welcome every member, and you can go to the website rist.tv and click on the join, and you'll be contacted by one of us, and we'll help you out. And within a day, you can have your logo on the website, and you can have this phenomenal community of knowledgeable people about RIST and protocols in general for content video delivery in live. So you feel free to join us, and you have access to 83 other companies that are now working towards with the same objectives.
Quick notice as well, for live support of LibRIST related implementations, we have a Slack channel and a Telegram chat for people implementing the library.
That's right.
And you can find all this information on our website. So please go ahead and check all our libraries on the website.